Well, I'm sorry about this. There was some technical difficulties. The whole conversation didn't get recorded. I feel real bad about it. Nothing we could do about it. So we had to cut this conversation a little short. We didn't have to cut it. We were only able to reproduce what the recording, video, and audio can offer. So apologize to our guest and to the listeners or watchers. But this episode did have to get cut short. Apologies again. Have a good day. Rachel Lavin. I love talking about nutrition and health. Rachel is a specialist. She had an epiphany at 40 years old, living in Manhattan. She was a size zero. She had achieved her, what she thought was her perfect, body type, but she was miserable. And she reflected and she made many changes. She wrote a book called The Donut Diaries, where she talks about the three pillars of fitness: nourishment, movement. I wonder what you would guess would be the third. But she talks about what she does now to help people about self forgiveness and self sabotage, how she went through all this and how she turned it around and how she could help. We talk about the difference between being a therapist and being a coach. And she loves pink post it notes. Very, very interesting what she does with them. She lived in Manhattan for many, many years, more than 15 years, and now she's in South Carolina. I ask about that kind of culture switch in the beginning, but we get right to diet and what she does now to help people with this. Our country here in the States, we have a very poor attitude with that. We have these yo-yo diets, and what can we do to help not only get healthy, but to be in the right, to be body positive, which she has an issue with that phrase as well. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic. I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Cool. Rachel Lavin, so excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Tell me about I'm going to use the term culture shock, but Northern California, Hawaii, Vancouver, Washington, Portland, then most recently New York City to South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the last 17 years in Manhattan, so moving here has
Whoa.
been an adjustment, but because I grew up in the burbs, I don't think it was that big of an adjustment. Now, for my partner, he was born and raised in New York City, never lived anywhere else before here, so
Mm.
he's definitely taking a little longer to understand, like, no, honey, we have to get in the car to go there. We can't walk there. I'm sorry.
That is the beauty of Manhattan. You could walk everywhere. After having a nice meal and just walking is so nice. It's one of the not many cities you could do that anymore in.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I heard you say that you just had to get out. I hear the phrase, don't live in California too long, you'll get too soft. Don't live in New York for too long, you'll get too hard.
I haven't heard that before. How funny. I mean, I would definitely agree with that to a certain extent. I when I meet people here and they're like, "You must be from New York," because I just, you're
Mm,
used to being direct. You're used to doing
mm,
this and doing
mm.
that and taking charge. And Southern ladies here kind of, what?
Yes, yes. Oh
What's
my.
happening?
Yeah, it is a big shock, but both have their pros and cons. And so tell me about, so the book that you wrote, very, very cool. The Donut Diaries. What do you want the reader to come away with, Rachel?
I definitely want every single person who reads my book to know that they're not alone. That was
Mm,
my theme throughout the book because I think so many people, when it comes to how they see themselves and how they feel in their own skin, it's very overwhelmingly you feel alone. And I know I did
mm.
for so many years, so that was my goal.
Important to find like your tribe. I started my business when I was in the 90s, and then I joined this peer group, and all of a sudden I'm with people of like minds and have similar problems, and it's so much. You can have accountability. It's just knowing that you're not alone and you're not the only one with these problems really, really helps. You talk about the three kind of pillars of fitness: nourishment, movement, and rest.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm truncating it so it seems achievable. There's so much that goes into how our body responds, but the main three things in my opinion is consistently moving your body, consistently nourishing your body, and you have to have adequate rest. And that means sleep, that means days off, that means lowering your stress, that means
Mm.
being able to deal with life's challenges in a way that doesn't keep spiking things and like raising levels. And so that takes a lot of work to learn how to get there. But yes, I do believe in those three pillars.
And I say the same thing, sleep, exercise, and nutrition. And people, we can all sleep. I mean, it's not expensive, right? It's not like it costs a lot of money to move. Everybody can walk. Well, not I should say everybody, but most people can walk. We can get some kind of exercise. We can control what we put in our mouth, and we can sleep. I mean, it doesn't seem that difficult, but they're really the pillars to health.
Yes, but unfortunately, we've become a society of we have to do everything in one day. We have to always be thinking
Mm.
about our bodies and what we're eating and what we're doing. And some people go on the other complete spectrum of it, and that seems so overwhelming. So they just don't take care of themselves. And
Mm.
I wish more than anything to bridge that gap between both extremes and just find some balance.
Mm. Yeah, balance. People do like to go to extremes, especially we talked about being in Manhattan. It's just this kind of impatience and to go, go, go. I'm not quite sure. I know I was that way when I was younger. When you kind of get older, you kind of sit back a little bit. Tell
Mhm.
me, you struggled with self forgiveness and
Mm.
for a long time. Tell me about that journey, Rachel.
Absolutely. I just think that I was so hard on myself growing up because I didn't have the typical body that society at the time, well, still for the most part, embraces, which is thinness. And I would fluctuate in my body weight so often. And when you get this praise for being in a smaller body, you just, especially at a young age, you just assume that that is what you have to do and strive for and be for your whole life.
Hmm.
And because I didn't understand the correlation between all the things, and I was just always focused on my food part or the movement part, and I never put the two parts together,
Hmm.
that I was always fluctuating in body weight, always up and down, up and down. And so if you can imagine what that does to your psyche, it's like, oh, people love me. Oh, people don't love me. People love me. And to never
Hmm.
really stop to think, well, how do you feel about yourself? Like, do you love yourself? Do you what do you want for yourself? It was
Mm,
always a constant barrage of thoughts of, I'm not good enough for other people. So when I hit 40 years old and I kind of had this like epiphany that I had to start living my life for myself because I wanted to be happy. And I
mm,
just didn't feel like I was ever really on this even happiness field. It was always, like I said, attached to whatever my body looked like. So when I hit 40 and I just kind of like shut out all the noise for the first time in my life and just felt
mm,
like, oh, I have to be happy with me. I have to
mm,
be happy no matter what my body looks like, no matter what, if I have a boyfriend or if I don't have a boyfriend or
mm.
what my job is. Like I had to be happy at my core. And so when I started that journey of like cleaning up my past, dealing with what I felt were my triggers or my traumas, and I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happening to my froggy voice. And really started looking inward is when everything started to change.
But Rachel, that pivot, was it your 40 birthday? I mean, what made that pivot?
Yes. So I turned 40. I was living in Manhattan. For the first time in my life, Joey, I had achieved what I thought was my perfect body. I was a size zero. So
Whoa.
40 years old, big birthday, zero size in my clothes. And I was miserable. I was so
Mm,
miserable. I felt just discombobulated. I didn't feel like this was who I was supposed to be. And I think a couple days after my birthday, I just kind of was at work and just had this, like I said, this almost like, I like to use the word spiritual like feeling
sure.
because it was like I was outside of my body and it was just such a beautiful moment that I know I'll never forget, and I do share that
Mm,
experience in my book. But I just, that's what I'm saying, all these thoughts that you're not this, you're not that, you're not that, all of a sudden was like, yes you are, you just don't know how to tap into them. So when I turned 40, that's when it really like
wow.
slap me across the face, if you will.
So you're at what society tells you at this perfect size, but you don't feel. I mean, are you physically ill? Are you mentally ill? So you don't feel good. Tell me more
Oh,
about that.
yeah, that's a good clarification. No, I was healthy. I mean, I looked amazing.
Yeah.
You would think that I would be on top of the world and happy and just embracing this, but there was something gnawing at me emotionally. Like, okay, great. Yeah, I'm size zero. I've wanted this my whole life, but I still don't feel safe in my own body. I don't feel calm. I don't feel at peace. I'm not happy. So those were the things when I said I don't feel good. I'm sorry. Yeah, I felt
Mm,
fine physically. I just
mm,
wasn't feeling good emotionally. And so that's what kind of triggered this like wanting more,
mm.
wanting to know who Rachel really was.
So once you had this epiphany, Rachel, and you had this experience, did you start creating a plan of how things are going to change? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to get to this size. I'm going to start doing this. I mean, what plans did you put in action at that point?
At that point, I just started with everything that you're told to do when you want to like be a better person, right? So you journal, you go
Mm,
to therapy, you do all the things. So I dove right in, and there are some things, I'm not going to lie, that felt really authentic and felt great, and some just were not my jam.
mm,
And I just kind of tiptoed around all this stuff until something felt good. And what really felt good was I went back into my past and healed some relationships that really needed to be healed.
mm. Hmm.
And I set some boundaries with some other people that really needed to be set, that weren't,
Wow.
that they weren't aligning with what I needed. And so I did that. I did journal for a while. That was nice. Meditation, although I do like now, I like something called grounding. Meditation just was never my thing.
Hmm.
I can't stick with it. And but I just started being alone, and that was something I had never done before. So Manhattan at the time was the perfect place to be a single woman. I would take myself out on dates, I would go walk around the city, I would start to learn how to trust myself. And
Mm.
I think that was something that I didn't know before.
Wow, and it's all due to this kind of birthday and just something kind of clicked. I always wonder, like, what happens at the how does that is it intervention? Is it not intervention? Is it, spirit come to Jesus moment? It was, I had similar incident where I gained a certain weight. I'll talk about it in a moment. And doctor said to me, if I don't lose weight, I'm not going to see my daughter anymore. So, that scared me. But that nothing like that didn't really happen to you. You just kind of turned 40 and just did some self-reflecting.
Yeah, because I never, and again, I'm not a doctor, and I do
Yeah.
understand that there are some weight related health issues. I don't want people to think I don't believe that, but the tactics that our society uses to force people to lose weight to me are so obnoxious, and I don't
Yeah.
believe that it's necessary.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Well, I'm sorry about this. There were some technical difficulties. The whole conversation didn't get recorded. I feel real bad about it. Nothing we could do about it. So we had to cut this conversation a little short. We didn't have to cut it. We were only able to reproduce what the recording video and audio can offer. So apologize to our guest and to the listeners or watchers. But this episode did have to get cut short. Apologies again. Have a good day.